All right, let's hear what Joe Biden has to say about all this fucking COVID nonsense, though. Let's go, Brandon, baby.
Look, there is no federal solution. This gets solved at a state level. Look.
Oh, that's right. There's no federal solution, says Joe Brandon. Great stuff. Let's see what Dr. Fauci has to say about
now
COVID.
Is Dr. Anthony Fauci, Chief Medical Advisor to President Biden. Dr. Fauci, good morning to you. It's good to have you. So we're now averaging more than 160,000 COVID cases per day in the U.S. And yesterday on This Week, you said that you expect that number to keep rising.
By the way, there's no federal solution to COVID is unironically what, Brandon number one, a.k.a. Donald Trump, said as well, for the record.
How bad do you think this might get, and when do you expect to see this?
Are you unironically normalizing Let's Go Brandon? I mean, I've been making Let's Go Brandon memes for a very, very long, since it first popped off. What do you mean unironically normalizing? Who cares? Just say fuck Joe Biden. Like, literally, I've been making fun of people being cowardly and saying, let's go Brandon, rather than just say fuck Joe Biden. Fuck Joe Biden.
Omicron surge come to an end, come to a peak?
You know, it's very difficult to predict because we have so many unvaccinated people in this country who are really quite vulnerable. Even with the vaccinated people, you're going to see breakthrough infections. Fortunately, what we've seen thus far is that if you're vaccinated and boosted and you do get infected with a breakthrough infection, that your infection is either generally asymptomatic or mildly symptomatic. The way it's going up right now, it's going to get worse before it gets better, that's for sure. We don't expect things are going to turn around in a few days to a week. It likely will take much longer than that, but that's unpredictable.
You recently talked.
By the way, Leo DiCaprio absolutely was Fauci in Don't Look Up, which I thought was really good. A lot of people got understandably mad at Don't Look Up because it kind of is the very same thing it criticizes. It's like it's doing like a meta criticism while simultaneously in the real world is the exact same thing that it is doing meta criticism on. So I found that really interesting. But muted for spoilers. There's no spoilers. The movie is literally just exactly what the fucking trailer is, exactly what the byline is. So, Dr. Fauci, though, is exactly Leo's character. Like, Leo's changed throughout, and his attitudes are literally, it just, like, reminded me of Dr. Fauci a lot.
About a peak somewhere in January. Based on what you've seen recently, do you still think that timeline stands?
That's possible. I mean, again, it all depends. Each demography of a country is different. South Africa went way, way up and then came back down. The UK is still going up. Hopefully they'll turn around because we usually lag somewhat behind them temporally. And in other words, what happens there generally happens here a couple to 3 weeks later.
You noted there that Omicron perhaps is less severe. Does that have something to do with the fact that the variant is hitting less vulnerable populations, or people are vaccinated or had...
Dog is only... DJ Wee thinks you need to stop watching MasterChef over my cold, dead body, baby. By the way, so I think the most prescient take on Omicron is that it's like around 10% weaker, right? Is what the suspicion is, what the early results have shown. However, if you have already had COVID, okay, because of the inconsistency of the antibodies that are present in your body, and because of when you may or may not have had COVID, if you are not vaccinated, it is still going to fuck you, okay? Like, that's what people don't understand. They're like, they see lower, like, they see 10% weaker and go, fuck yeah, baby. I mean, I took real COVID in the chest, not a big deal. And it's like, dog, you had COVID like a year ago, and it was a way, way fucking less, it wasn't like that significant of a fucking viral load. And you definitely don't have antibodies anymore, and you refuse to get a vaccine, and you get Omicron, you're still fucked. Okay? And more importantly, you can still, fill up the hospitals.
previous infections? Or can we truly take away some comfort that if we get this, it might not be as bad?
Well, that's a very good question, and we don't know. But what we're worried about are the people who've not been vaccinated, because they are really quite vulnerable not only to getting infected, but to be getting a severe outcome. And that's the concern that we have for those individuals.
So still a lot of unknowns, but we have seen an increase in hospital admissions among children recently. New York City officials, for example, calling it a 4-fold increase. What's driving that?
Well, you know, that's a good question. We're seeing the same thing again. I got off the phone just a day and a half ago with my South African colleagues. They're seeing a bit of that too. More hospitalizations, not necessarily completely more severe disease in kids, but many more children are requiring hospitalization. So we have to keep an eye on that. That's one of the reasons why we say now that we have the capability and the authority to vaccinate children 5 to 11, that we're encouraging parents that if you have a child from 5 to 11, please get that child vaccinated to prevent them from getting anything that even resembles a serious illness.
Now, the Biden administration is promising 500 million at-home tests to be shipped out starting next month. But you've seen the lines out here, especially in places like New York City, people waiting for hours in the freezing cold for a test. We're nearly 2 years into this pandemic. Why is this still happening? Were we not prepared for Omicron?
Well, certainly Omicron is a very, very unusual variant, and it's...
Am I immune for 3 months if I just got COVID and I'm vaccinated? Please help. Dude, if you already got COVID and you were double vaxxed, like, you are in the highest level of protection. The immunity that comes from the immunity, like, you're not full-blown immune though. You can never, there is no such thing as like full-blown immunity, but the level of antibodies that you can generate as a consequence of getting COVID, though, unfortunately, is very inconsistent. But if you look at the data, people that have gotten COVID are the least protected because of the inconsistency, because it greatly depends on the viral load that you got, and it greatly depends on how many antibodies your body created. The people that have double vax are more protected than the people who just got COVID and think they're protected as a consequence of that. The people that are double vaxxed and got COVID are at the highest level of protection. Also, then there's double vax booster, but there's not enough information, at least right now, in my opinion. Not too much info on that yet. But pretty sure if you get double vaxxed or if you get boosted, you have more protection than just being double vaxxed.
Incredible degree of spreading. In January, as we enter January, there'll be many, many, many more tests that we have. One of the things that caused the stress is the extraordinary demand, kind of a conflation of issues. One, the concern, appropriate concern, about Omicron, and the other was the holiday season, where a lot of people flock to get tested.
As you noted there, people need to brace for it to get worse before it gets better. So, Dr. Fauci, thank you so much for your time this morning. We do appreciate it.
Anyway, is it 10% less severe than Delta or base model COVID? What they were saying is just 10% less severe than Delta. Booster is 35x less effective against Omicron. What? Yeah, GG's for the homies up in Canada. From what I understand, it takes a long ass time to get a booster for you guys. Sorry about that. It's quite literally our fault. We have all the fucking vaccinations, and our fucking piglets aren't even taking those vaccinations. How does anyone get antibodies against the top of the hour ad break? Good question. What a fucking segue. How does anybody get boosted against the top of the hour ad break? Well, there's one way to do it. If you want to avoid the ads at the top of the hour, all you need to do is subscribe. You can do that for $5. You can do that for free, okay, with a Twitch Prime. You can do that by receiving a gifted sub, but that's inconsistent. That's like getting an antibody. You know what I mean? People gift subs all the time, but not a guarantee that you're going to get one. Dude, it's so good. So fucking good, dude. It's me!